and welcome to NCTV. Today we are interviewing the Mayor of East Midlands, Claire Ward. I'm Imogen.
And I'm Makita. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
To start off with our questions, let's talk about your career, path and experiences. You were once one of the youngest MPs in the country. What was that like?
It was an amazing experience and an absolute privilege to be a Member of Parliament, to represent an area. Particularly, it was such an exciting time. So I was elected with the new Labour government in 1997 with Tony Blair, and it really was a period of great excitement, I think, across the country. And it was a wonderful learning experience as well for me. I brought things to it, but I certainly learnt a lot along the way.
What difficulties have you faced during your political career? Have you faced discrimination against you?
Well, I think if you're a woman in politics, it's definitely more difficult. And I think more so now, we see a lot of the attacks on social media more so take place with women in politics. And I think if you're a young woman, as I was back in 1997, it's another dimension as well. So, but I don't think it should let us be a barrier. I think we have to just keep on going and encourage more people to be involved in politics, more diversity in politics, and more young women, certainly.
Almost a year ago, you were elected as Mayor of East Midlands. How were you chosen as a candidate?
Well, I had to go through a selection process for the Labour Party, which meant that there are 22 parliamentary constituencies in this. And I had to try and persuade some of those to nominate me, to give me a nomination for the process. And then I had to get the membership of the Labour Party in this region individually to vote for me. So that's how the process works in the Labour Party. It took some months and there was obviously a lead up to it before it officially started. So I certainly felt like I'd been on a campaign trail for quite a long time before we even got to the election campaign.
What inspires you personally to try this role?
So I think this role is really different from anything else in politics. It's much better than being a Member of Parliament. That's not to say that we haven't got Members of Parliament doing great jobs, but I think it's a role that comes with much more hands-on activity. So you are responsible for making decisions that you won't do if you are a Member of Parliament, particularly a backbench Member of Parliament, so somebody without ministerial office. And also, I'm directly elected, so my first duty is to the people who've elected me. And so it really is the place before the party. So I am a Labour and cooperative mayor, but the most important thing is for me to do my duties towards the people who elected me here in the East Midlands.
Yeah. What initiatives or programmes have you integrated during these 10 months?
So because we're a brand new organisation, quite a bit of the time has been just getting it set up. When I first walked through the door on the 7th of May last year, they'd only just taken an office. They were still unpacking the boxes and the computers and everything, and we only had about 20 interim staff. So now, 10 months on, we've got probably about 150 people. We have made lots of decisions around investing into programmes for the future, and we've got lots more decisions coming up in the next couple of months. And I'm starting to build a team that can deliver the things that we need in this region. So particularly around transport. So over the next year or so, we'll have to decide how we're going to run a transport system across the whole region.
How does your typical day look as mayor?
And there is no such thing as a typical day. So today, I left home, drove to South Derbyshire to visit another college who were opening their Green Skills Academy. And I'm here today. But yesterday I was in a meeting with the Coalfields Regeneration Trust, thinking about the communities that we have here across this region, and then visiting Buxton to look at their heritage centre and think about the visitor economy opportunities. How do we encourage more people to come in? So there's no typical day. I can be anywhere in the 2,000 square miles that are the East Midlands. Or I could be in my office in Chesterfield.
Right.
What is the hardest part of your job, and is this stressful?
Ooh, so I think the hardest part is making sure that I'm getting the decisions right, not just for now, but for the longer term. And we don't always know what the future is going to look like, do we?
No.
So jobs in the future are going to be very different from the jobs that we have now.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to make decisions that help us to prepare children and young people for what those jobs might be in the future. So as we think about the skills, but as we think about where people might want to live and how they live, COVID changed so much, didn't it?
Yeah.
For us. You know, everyone was going to work in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And now there's so much change in the way in which we use technology and the way in which we live our lives. And so so that's a tough decision. Is it stressful? Yeah, it can be. But I thrive on it and I really enjoy it.
Right. So how do you distribute your time and work evenly between Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire?
Oh, that's a bit like choosing a favourite child, isn't it? You can't really pick. So you have to respond to the needs that are there. And some days I will be in Derbyshire all day, sometimes in Nottinghamshire, sometimes across the two. So I try to balance my time as much.
So trying to pay attention to each one.
Yeah, I try to, absolutely.
Politics is considered boring by many people, especially younger generations. Why is this the case, and what can be done to change it?
I think people find politics boring because they watch the way in which politics is conducted in this country. And so they just think it's people shouting at each other, telling people things that they don't believe, they don't see the delivery of those promises. So I think that's a real problem for democracy. I think politics is hugely important. Every single thing that we do in our lives is determined by politics. The fact you're sitting here conducting these interviews,
Absolutely.
in a college, who funds that college? How do we fund it? How do we decide what your rights will be, what your opportunities will be for jobs in the future, where you're going to live, how you're going to get there? All of those things, whether or not, certainly now, we live in a country where we feel safe, safe on the streets or just safe globally. So politics is hugely important. And all I say to people is, I don't expect everyone to want to be a politician, to be on the front line in that sense, doing those roles. But I think you need to be engaged, because if you're not, then the people who do want to be engaged won't necessarily be representative of your views. And unless we get everybody's views, there's a risk that politics goes to the extremes, and we don't want that in this country, either extreme. So I hope the way in which I work is to try and bring people into the decision making and help people understand why things are important.
And finally, what advice would you give to young people who want to enter political life but don't know where to start?
Okay, well, first thing, do lots of reading and watching of politics and think about the issues, think how you feel about them. And then when you've decided how you feel about them, see if you can align some of those views with some of the political parties. You probably won't agree with the policies of every political party or whichever one you sign up to, but if you can think that they are generally what represents your view, then you might want to join that political party, get involved, and most of the political parties, will have activities going on where you can be involved in campaign, or and think about maybe being a local councillor as well. Maybe get involved in student politics, but try to be involved in ultimately public service. If we want a really good country, if we want a really good place to live, then we've all got to contribute to that. And how you do that in public service of some kind or other is the most important part for me. Give something back into your community.
Yeah.
Right, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.